Hi, I'm La Super Comadre from RadioCrystalUSA.com, and I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do. So, La Super Comadre, my platform is all about bringing people on, special guests, who either do something for the community, who have done something for the community, who match up the pillars of what my show is about, which is about taking care of your heart and soul, which is about political engagement, which is about education. So every person that comes on can be a super comadre or a super compadre, someone that's out there doing something for the community. So I invite you all to listen and to watch every Tuesday when we record the show. But it also repeats on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning and at 10 o'clock at night on RadioCrystalUSA.com. And don't forget to give us a like. Adios. Who is going to be here today to share a little bit about who she is and why she's running for office and what position she's running for, and kind of give us a little bit of education on that position and the importance of voting, right? But first of all, I just want for you to share with us a little bit about you, Conchita Reyes.
Well, do you have time? Because it starts from 1926.
So 1926, let's go back. So now, so tell me a little bit about you. I know we've known each other for a while.
Yes.
And I see you in many, out there in the community doing a lot of work, supporting, you have your family. So Conchita, tell me a little bit about you.
Well, I won't go all the way back to 1926.
Let's go a little bit.
But, as a kid, I can recall my mom, when we were in a time of need, my mom would go and seek out, assistance and so forth. And, as a child, you don't make the connection. You don't quite understand what the family situation is, but you can have an idea of what's going on. And being in those lines at the Baptist churches and getting, government cheese and, powder milk. And then sometimes Christmas wasn't, that big, where you get a football instead of a doll. Or, because Blue Santa brought, bags of toys left over. And just overall, you're aware of what's going on with your family situation. I remember one time, too, that my mom handed rolls of coins to my dad and telling him that's the last of it, to go grocery shopping. Wow. So those things stuck in the back of my mind. And I always grew up seeing things happening, and I always told myself, if I have an opportunity, I want to do something, And in my family, and as you're aware, I'm related to Gracie Sines, former city councilwoman, Mayor Pro Tem, and we're just, our family, the Guzman family, are just givers. I mean, we'll give you the last taco in our plate, or whatever, the last dollar in our wallet, and that's how we've always been. I mean, we're not here for the riches. We're very humble and simple living, and that's how it's always been. And we do like nice stuff, but it's not a priority to us. Yeah. And I've always been like that. And so just kind of moving forward, Harvey was one of the big ones that caught my attention, sitting at home, feeling helpless. My kids were safe. At the time, my ex-husband, we were all comfortable in the house and everything. But I was watching what was going on and hearing, and I knew that this hurricane was going to hit us pretty hard. Yeah. And so I started taking action on my own, where it's like, okay, let me see who's out there, setting up, and so I attached myself to the Cajun Navy.
Oh,
and
wow!
So I started doing deployments of boats and rescue. So there was a couple of friends, I won't mention their name yet. I want them to feel comfortable saying it themselves. But a couple of friends reached out to me in trying to rescue their family, like, the floods over there and the dams and Kingwood and Port Arthur and so forth. So I would try to do whatever I could to make sure that their family was being rescued. And then moving the boats from, Cypress Wood, Kingwood over to Port Arthur, because that's the direction that the hurricane was hitting. And there was moments at times where you had to just kind of step back. I recalled one young lady that had missed her dialysis, because of the hurricane was, in preparation, and of course the hospital and clinics were canceling some of the treatments, and she was starting to become septic. So we were trying to get her to 288, so a helicopter could land on 288. That was the only thing to the South Bank area. There was mobile homes and apartments, Greens Point area that had been flooded. And of course, the landlords wouldn't give them their deposit back, but they allowed them to stay if they help them clean out their apartment or mobile home. So we went over there with cleaning products and supplies, and I remember this lady was coming out of the apartment, and I said, "What do you need?" in Spanish. ¿Qué necesitas? Y me dijo, cualquier cosa tienes para él. And it was a 2-week-old baby. 2-week-old baby.
Wow.
And so it was like, distilled water, baby formula, diapers, and I said, I have a crib, over there, because people were donating stuff, and I have a bouncer, we'll be back, we'll bring them clothes and everything. So it was things like that, and pulling people out of the shelter of Georgia Brown, putting them in apartments. And there was one lady that she said, I got to get my kids out of the Georgia Brown because the homeless people are starting to do drugs and I said, okay, let's get you into an apartment. I was able to get some funding. And we got her into an apartment, but then her car got repoed.
Oh my God.
And then I got her into a Harris County program for rental assistance. So then I was like, well, call them up and tell them to give you your money back because now you got 6 months. And I think, well, she was like, they won't give me my money back. And so I kept calling them. Yeah. And then I called the national number and everything. And then they said, come and pick up your check and please ask Conchita Reyes to quit calling us.
You know what? I think you just kicked off your campaign slogan here. Tenacity, grit, call. So you have just described probably what is needed for a position like the one you're seeking. Yeah. Talk about that position you're seeking. What does it mean? Because you always hear about the district I or J. Now we have at large. Talk a little bit about that, and because now we're segueing into what you can do and what you can potentially bring into a position like this. Exactly. Talk a little bit about that position and what is that like?
So overall, everybody's very familiar with districts because basically that's your council member, your go-to person when there's issue of trash, water, or whatever the case may be. But the at-large position, which is there's 5, so there's a total of 11 districts, and there's 5 at-large. So you got a total of 16 council members and 1 mayor. So 5, and I tell people you actually have 6 council members working for you, a district council member and 5 at large. Okay. Now the idea of an at large is 1, policy, researching at a 30,000 level, 30,000, I'm thinking of money right now, 30,000 foot level of being able to see, okay, District A has an issue with garbage. District E has a issue with garbage. What is the issue? Is it a similarity or is it different? How can we resolve the issue and maybe resolve all the way across the board? Okay. Ideally. Now you got 5 at large to do that. And sometimes, you got to be able to have policy, be ready for policy, grant programs, filing for grants. There's federal government money that's thrown out there all the time, and you have to be able to go after it. Okay. Fire department does it, police department, anytime they can go for grants and bring it back to the city and be able to disperse it to whatever department, solid waste, water, treatment. It just all depends. But particularly for at large, those are the 2 key things. Okay. Their vote and being able to pass policy that would help the city as a whole.
So keeping in mind at large. At large as a whole.
At large. All of the city of Houston, kind of like running for mayor, but you're a council member. But overall, people need to remember you have 6 council members, 5 at large, 1 district.
The one where you live plus the 5 at large.
Exactly.
Okay. So now I'm going to segue to another question because you get a lot of on voting, when it's time to vote, when it's time to register, when it's time to show up. Sometimes you hear excuses, sometimes you hear like, why? Why should I vote? What is one thing that you could share for others to share when they come across a family member or a friend or a colleague that it's just like, what, it's not worth voting because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really count. What do you say? What should we say? How do we move that person into the
Well, we always want to encourage.
Mhm.
I mean, number one thing is that it's your right. It's your God-given right. It's the one thing that you can do right now that hasn't been controlled yet. Because right now, yesterday is different than today. And it's constantly changing. And it's going to be changing even more through the state of Texas at the state level. And so, unfortunately, it hasn't quite hit on the local area, but look at the campaign that we're going to be throwing in 2023 in the local area, and you're going to see a lot of manipulation and efforts to change the dynamics of how city council and everything else is going to be moved. And so, how do we encourage people to go vote?
How do we make it connected to life? I guess.
You know, one of the things that we've done in research is anybody that makes $75,000 or less typically don't vote. And why? Because they have other things that are priorities. They may have 2 or 3 jobs. You know, that's why the 24-hour voting
was
really
essential.
It was essential, and it worked. And it was so amazing that the Texas state level took it away.
I know, but and I just heard that there was talk about removing students being able to vote at college campus.
Right. So taking the polls away from the universities.
That's what I'm trying to connect those that are not participating in the vote, that by not participating potentially put people into positions that are going to make it even harder.
Take your rights away. They're taking our rights away. And it's unfortunate. But this is the good news.
Okay.
We proved last year, and I campaigned for a whole year for other candidates. We proved that $20 million did not stop us from keeping those that are actively involved, those that are servant leaders, those who are really there for the community. We have proven them that it doesn't matter, no amount of money. You can throw 20 million, 50 million, but when you have a grassroots program,
you can't beat that. You can't beat that. So today, you know, by the time this airs, you know, we've already have done something amazing today, which is to kick off
my fundraiser,
your fundraiser. And I want you to talk to your audience, even now, and also for those that are going to listen in the future, you know, how can they, you know, come on board, support you, get your name out there. If you're going to have signage, how can volunteers find you, like you, you know, click on the follow you give donations. So go ahead, give hearts. So go ahead and share that information so people can connect with you and do the work to get you where you want to go.
Well, first of all, I'm going to give you my campaign pitch. My name is CONCHITA Reyes. I am running for City Council at Large, Position 1. I've been out there in the community for over 20 years, and it's time for me to provide my resource, my expertise, my knowledge to the community to serve you. I've been a huge advocate for increasing the number of minority candidates out there in the Houston area. I've been doing that for years. My trade is accounting. I'm over 20 years of accounting experience. I've done accounting, tax, audit prep work, business consulting, and insurance. I'm also a small-time investor. And as a woman, that's not commonly used, woman and investor. But I joined a group called Houston Women Investment One. The talk was out there, and I could hear it. Mind you, I have my own business, but I was following. And then I was just slowly brought in, and someone told me to join a Zoom call. And I recall one of the judicial candidates saying, "We don't know what the hell we're doing when it comes to campaigning." And it's hard. It's a hard struggle. I've been on the other side, and being a candidate's even more challenging. And you know, it's trying because a lot of times you have this image and focus on how a candidacy or a campaign should be running, but yet there's all these obstacles that you have to maneuver.
We're going to talk a little bit about obstacles because, you know, there are going to be times, and I want to commend you for stepping into this arena.
Thank you.
You know, I wanted my hats off to you, everything, because this is not a job that is easy to do, whether when you're running for it and once you get in it, right? So what was there a pivotal moment in your life where you said, okay, this is it? Like I maybe you felt along the way, maybe you heard whispers, and then all of a sudden you're like, this is it. What was that moment in your life propelled Conchita to wake up and like, okay.
Well, during when the tax season was over, my hobby or passion was about picking a candidate and helping them out. Right?
Okay.
And so I've done with Jessica Farrar, I did with Marianne Perez, Dr. Tamez, Michelle Liao, even Adrian Garcia when he ran for Congress. Beto, I did the Woodlands all the way to the Woodland Heights area, and then again this past year. You know, so there was pivotal moments where I felt passionate enough to help, but not to run. And then one day last year, I found out that position 1 was available, and I was like, you know what? That was my Aunt Gracie's old position at large. Position 1. And it was one of the things, and then, you know, Mike Knox was term limited, so, or termed out. So basically, I said, you know, maybe this is a sign.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it showed up.
Yeah.
So now that you're stepping into this arena, what is it that you take with you when you potentially are going to hit roadblocks, or when you're on that peak and then you hit that valley? What is it that keeps you going, Conchita? Because we'd like to know.
So, my village. Okay. It takes a village, even as an adult. It takes a village. Yes. My comadres.
Yes.
You know, my sisters that, you know, they always do, and my compadres.
Yes.
Because I have a special friend that does a mental health check.
Okay.
He texts and he's like, how's everyone's mental health check, you know? And then also, just, you know, my family, my Gracie, my mom, Connie, my daughter, Anina, just, you know, friends in general, they're just checking up on me and so forth. And, you know, and then listening to the voters. When they find out that you're running for office and they've watched you throughout the years, they're like, I had one I will say, Cesar Rodriguez.
Okay.
Right? Donatis. Yeah. Pinche cabrón, por fin.
I love it.
I was like, okay. I'll take it as a yes.
That's a vote of confidence.
Yeah,
for sure.
But
So,
he's watched me over the years. I mean, he's known me since Gracie ran for office. And it's funny because everybody says, was it Gracie that it instilled in you running for office? And I said, it's just over time, because I even remember in junior high, a friend of mine went too. She wanted to run, and I did her posters, and I did like Betty Boo with you know, red, white, and blue, and a teddy bear with red, white, and blue diaper, and you know, just kind of campaigning. But of course, in school, it's popularity, you know, more. So anyway, so she didn't win, but it was that. And then when Gracie did, it was like, oh, I know how to do that, and so went campaigning, and then overall, you know, I worked for her when she ran for mayor, but then I moved.
And you mentioned there was a time when you had things lined up and you wanted to, and you pivoted, right? You're like, I have this lined up. I was going to do this. I was going to invent this. What would you tell yourself if you had a chance to go back to that moment when you made those changes in your life? What would you tell yourself?
I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing. Keeping an open mind to the changes. You know, have that crying moment. Be graceful. Give yourself grace that you can go cry it out. There was a moment where I was kind of like venting but crying, and then someone was like, "Where are you going with this?" And I said, "Just let me do it, because tomorrow I'm going to kick ass."
That's right.
So just let me get it out of my system. Let me vent. Let me go through this whole process. I'm going to go to bed, and then tomorrow I'm going to kick ass. And sure enough, I started picking up phone calls, making calls, and raised $11,000.
Whoa.
So I went and I started picking up checks and everything. But it was one of those moments, it's like, I need to just get over that hump, you know?
Yeah.
But I knew there's something better on the other side, so I just needed to get over there.
Yeah.
And so I forced myself. And a lot of times you can self-sabotage, you know, and you don't mean to. But in instance, you're like, you know, keeping yourself and preventing yourself, or being scared, or not wanting to take the risk because, you know, God forbid, it might even lead to something even worse. And I think, but it you know, I had a discussion with 40 young ladies and moms. It was at a tea party. And when I was addressing my issues that I went through and everything to the little girls, I also addressed it to moms. Because at my age, you still have time. You can do anything.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what age.
Yes.
You can do whatever you want, whatever ambition you have. Don't stop.
Yeah.
I tell people, if I can jump out of the plane twice, a perfectly good working airplane, you can go start your own company, go pick up your hobby, create it into a passion.
Yeah.
Just overall, don't stop. And if it fails,
it's okay.
It's okay.
I am
Give yourself grace.
Proponent of it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay to fall flat on your face. That's one of the things as a mom, and you're a mom too. Our kids are watching this, and they're watching what we do, what we don't do, and one of the big things that I've added to my parenting is being the parent that I needed, which was, it's okay if you mess up. It's okay if you fall on your face. It's okay if you didn't get it the first time. What did you learn from that? What are you going to do different next time? Or do you still want to pursue it? And it's okay to stop and pause and say, you know what? I'm out. I'm going to try something different. Or I'm going to try it this other way. Or even if people are going to look at you like you're I'm check on myself now. Even if they're going to look at you like you're crazy, they're not going to, if the ones that are going to be there for you, doesn't matter. They're going to love you. They're going to be there. They're going to support you.
That's one of the things about children. They come with unconditional love.
Yes.
So you get kind of like a free pass, even though when they get to their teens, everything you did wrong comes out. It's like from 14 to 18, all this comes out, and you're like, really? Well, it would have been nice if you would have told me back then. I could have fixed it, But yeah, and then they'll come back. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I find myself saying I'm sorry too.
Yeah.
To my kids.
Oh yeah.
It's my first time being a mom of a teenager.
And there's no book. There's a baby book. And it goes only to a certain amount of months, but then after that, you're on your own. And then you're playing by ear, and you're getting resources from different people, and and no one's perfect.
No, and that's okay. And that is super
and that's what makes everybody different, distinctively different, and that's unique.
Mm-hmm. So we're at the end, and I just wanted to say that I wanted to share a quote that came to me as you were sharing about your experience with Harvey. Hi, I'm La Super Comadre from RadioCrystalUSA.com, and I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do. So, La Super Comadre, my platform is all about bringing people on, special guests, who either do something for the community, who have done something for the community, who match up the pillars of what my show is about, which is about taking care of your heart and soul, which is about political engagement, which is about education. So every person that comes on can be a super comadre or a super compadre, someone that's out there doing something for the community. So I invite you all to listen and to watch every Tuesday when we record the show. But it also repeats on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning and at 10 o'clock at night on RadioCrystalUSA.com. And don't forget to give us a like. Adios.